In general, we'll start with just basic introductions, and then I'll just sort of let everyone know the context and sort of what the plan is. So, judges, you can start introducing yourselves, just basic, yeah. Oh, whoever.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Laura Garrity. I have a background in consulting and municipal bonds and asset management, and now I'm a partner with my sister for a financial consulting firm, and part of our business model is giving back. So this ethical issue is very important and near and dear to my heart, and I look forward to hearing how you guys come up with a solution for this very important issue that many of us discussed.
I'm Eileen. I'm an urban planner, and I came here with my urban planning degree and my MBA in international business. I currently work as an environmental planner for the city of Los Angeles. I just started my own consulting firm in urban planning, real estate development, green design, sustainability, all of that. And I'm very honored to be here. Thank you.
My name is Marianne Aguilar. This is my 3rd year as a judge. My son actually goes to school here, and I saw somebody was looking for a judge, or Jeffrey was looking for judges about 3 years ago, so that's when I did my first competition. I am retired now, but I worked in marketing for about 25, 30 years. I actually started as a television reporter and then went into marketing. I did, my last type of marketing work that I was in was like experiential marketing. So that's about it.
Jerry Alkine. I was in distribution for years and years, and am now a real estate developer. What I found in distribution, it was the property that made the money, not the businesses.
I'm Melissa Fitzpatrick. I'm a professor of business ethics and sustainability, so my PhD is in philosophy, different angle than our business folk here. But yeah, so happy to have you and that you traveled this far to get here. Welcome. So just a little bit of insight. So be sure, introduce yourself. You can do like the basic names first, sorry.
Okay, I'm Alex.
Alex.
I'm Elena.
I'm Fernando Núñez.
Cristina.
Ana Maya.
Honored to be here.
So happy to have you. So just to kind of like give you the context, make sure we're all on the same page. So you guys will be taking on a fictional identity. We will also be assigned a fictional identity. Make sure that everyone knows who's who when you start the presentation. You guys will have 25 minutes to make your case for solution why it's legally, financially, and ethically viable. During this time, you'll be completely uninterrupted. So we won't say anything. Do you want me to give you any sort of like 5 minutes left? Is there would that be helpful?
Yes.
Perfect. So 5 minutes, I'll just sort of like go like this. So then you have a sense. After you're finished, you can open the floor for Q&A. We'll stay in our roles and we'll ask questions for about 10, 15 minutes. Then when that time's up, we'll just informally give you feedback. Okay.
Thank
The
you.
floor is yours.
Good morning, Tesla's Board of Directors. We are the team of Veritas Consulting, composed by Elena, Cristina, Amaya, Alejandro, and me, Fernando. And today we're presenting the case, The Inhumane Cost of Clean Energy, a Tesla supply chain issue. To start, Tesla has always been hailed for its sustainability, but right now it's being attacked for its connections to inhuman labor. Not only this, but many environmental groups have called into question and raised concerns over the carbon footprint of the EV battery production. And many suppliers have been linked with violations of labor and environmental law. So, taking all this to account, we need to remind ourselves, what is Tesla? What are we? Well, Tesla is more than batteries and cars. Tesla is a mission to accelerate the world's transition into clean energy, into sustainable energy. So, have we been doing a good plan with this? Have we been completing our mission? Well, evidence shows that this hasn't really been the case. We need to first analyze our market. Well, we move ourselves in a market where the consumer is eco-conscious. 70% of buyers say that sustainable sourcing is a key fact in order to buy a car. We are moving ourselves in a market that is expected to grow to $1 trillion in 2030, and where we lead here in the United States with more than 48% market share. But our leaderships have been called into question. Increased competitiveness has decreased our market share, and we have been pressured by regulation and by our consumers. So here, we ask ourselves a question. How can Tesla continue to lead the EV revolution while maintaining ethical and sustainable standards in our supply chain? To answer this question, we subdivided it in three. What are our main pain points right now? Are there any alternatives for batteries or suppliers? And how can we lead while maintaining brand integrity? Now, Elena will start with our analysis.
Thank you, Fernando. So this is our plan. We're going to share an analysis trying to understand the main pain points of Tesla's supply chain. Then we'll introduce a two-pillar strategy inspired in the industry's best practices. And finally, we'll analyze the main ethical, legal, and financial implications of it. Our idea is trying to let you know how you can turn this moment of pressure into a long-term competitive advantage and reclaim your role as a true sustainability leader. So first, let's take a deep look into the engine behind the mission, your supply chain. We'll start here with electric cars, futuristic. Here we have a high developed EV where Tesla's innovation is undeniable. But what we see here are factories. Those factories are hungry for materials, for speed, for scale. So if we rewind, we see the EV core, we find the batteries. In the batteries, we see cobalt and other minerals that are designed for efficiency, but refined in processes that most of the time have low transparency on how and where these minerals are treated. Further back, we see here the mining giants, large-scale operations in minimum regulation, in zones with minimum regulations, but with high environmental risk. And at the very beginning of the line, we find the artisanal miner. This is what we rarely see. There are small children working at dangerous conditions, risking their lives, digging out the cobalt that powers our batteries, our Tesla's batteries. So let's stop here because this is pretty important for us. Our customer is not buying just a car. They are buying a movement. They are buying a boat for the future. And our question here is this the movement we think we're buying? Is this the movement we want them to buy? So this brings us to Tesla's paradox. On one side, we have a mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And on the other side, a supply chain that raises uncomfortable questions. For example, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. But are the working conditions I just mentioned aligned with this SDG? Or SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. But do we really know where the materials in our batteries come from? Or does the responsibility stops at the factory gates? Okay, so this is not a case about business. It's a case about alignment. Our idea is to show you how Tesla can still be the icon it promises to be, not just in the showroom, but all the way down to the mine. So now let's focus on the ethical implications of it.
Thank you so much, Elena. I will be now analyzing the ethical dimension of the crisis that we have already mentioned. But I want you to come back to your mission, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Sustainable energy. Really? Here we have some ESG metrics of some popular companies compared to those of Tesla. British American Tobacco scoring 94 over 100. Philip Morris International, the tobacco giant, is scoring 84 over 100, while Tesla is scoring 37. If sustainability was a matter of pass or fail, Tesla will be failing this test. But why? Because while you are building this electrical vehicle batteries, your supply chain, particularly in Congo, raises serious red flags about how ethical that clean energy really is. We know that all the points that we have highlighted are not the unique main reason of this low score, but we firmly believe that changing and tackling these issues would boost your scores and make a really positive halo effect in the ESG scores that Tesla is presenting. The ethical dilemma boils down into three main key points. The first one, child labor, often hidden behind poor documentation. Second of it, inhumane working conditions, where systemic abuse happens and hazardous labor is very common. And thirdly, the environmental destruction, where rivers and land are poisoned by heavy metals due to the extraction and the mining practices. During our analysis, we want to see the role that TESA has in these different dilemmas and the responsibility that you have over the crisis that's happening in Congo. There's a common saying in my country, tell me who you go out with and I'll tell you who you are. Well, I spent about 0.5 seconds searching on Google, and these are the kind of news and reports that showed up. TESA battery material supplier tops list of human rights abuses for a second year in a row. Can TESA avoid all these news and reports that attempt to seize their reputation and can cost them their leading position in the market? Let us first analyze the partnership between TESA and the mining multinational. In 2020, TESA partnered with Glencore to secure the cobalt that it's a key mineral for their batteries. But Glencore operates in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where human rights abuses are not just a common thing, they are systemic. We're talking about 35,000 children working in mines, entire communities being displaced, tunnels collapsing and killing miners, water and land being poisoned by those heavy metals. This isn't just an hypothetical ethical concern, it's a documented crisis that, as I have shown before, has already broken the shell and entered that mediatic sphere. So our question here is, can TESA be held accountable for all these dilemmas that are happening in Congo? As we have seen, child labor is one of the main challenges that you are facing in your supply chain. So it is useful to see the definition that the International Labour Organization gives for child labor. Taking into account the cultural differences, children might be a common part of the economic structure of a household, reporting a necessary salary. But here it's not just about missed school. It's about an irreversible harm caused to those children. There are reports that show that children in mining areas show as twice the uranium and manganese levels in their bodies compared to children that are not part of that mining areas, as a study carried out by the United States Environmental Protection Agency has shown. So, can TESA continue doing these practices? With this depiction, we wanted to show how TESA's decision-making process has been, and to really show the reality. TESA knows the risks. You are seeing the data, and you are still choosing to source cobalt from these sources, prioritizing the production over protection. This is why we can consider that TESA is cooperating with this unethical practice and can therefore be considered responsible for what's happening in the Congo. But this crisis has not just an ethical dimension, it has also legal and financial consequences. I will leave you now with my colleague Alex, which will explain them.
Thank you, Christina. But as you have said, this isn't just about ethics, it is about survival. And even if ethical practices or financial losses don't move you, legal risks should. Now, when we approach this supply chain, Tesla supply chain, the question is not, is it illegal, but rather, how much longer can it remain legally defensible? Until now, there is no confirmed evidence that Tesla has explicitly broken the law. However, it was sued in 2020 in Doe versus Tesla for allegedly benefiting from child labor in the Congo. Although this case was dismissed, it revealed legal vulnerability. And today, with incoming regulations around forced labor, traceability, recycling, Tesla's current practices may soon become non-compliant. The problem we are talking about, therefore, is not past wrongdoing, but rather a dangerous legal regulation that is caused and shaped by court precedents, regulatory complexity, and increasing exposure to litigation. So let's start with the first one, the court cases. Legal precedents are already shaping what Tesla can and cannot do. As I was saying, in 2020, Tesla was sued, along with other companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft. 2 years later, the case of Glencore exposes the severity of financial risks. In 2022, the company was fined $1.5 billion for corruption across the supply chain, involving more than 100 million in bribes. And finally, in 2023, mining companies in Kolwezi and Mukumbi faced lawsuits for displacing communities. So, with that, we can see that Tesla needs to implement rigorous oversight of its suppliers in order to protect consumer trust and investor confidence. Now, beyond these court cases, there are also specific regulations across different countries that are limiting what Tesla can and cannot do. We will see the case of the US and the EU. So first, in the US, Tesla had almost a 50% market share in the EV market on the past year. This makes it the central region, or the central pillar for the company. Here we have the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which excludes vehicles from the up to $7,500 EV tax credit per car. That if they use Chinese refined cobalt. So obviously, this forces Tesla to restructure its sourcing. Additionally, we have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, the FCPA, which penalizes bribery in the supply chain. Therefore, Tesla has to be aware of the companies it works with. And finally, the Tariff Act of 1930 bans imports made with forced labor. So now we move to the EU, where Tesla was the best-selling brand in the EV market on the past year, with almost an 11% market share. Here, there is the EU Battery Regulation of 2023, number 1542, which imposes strict cobalt traceability measures by 2025, and also requires at least 16% of cobalt must be recycled by 2031. So, as you can see, this obviously narrows Tesla's room to maneuver. Now, its solution space is defined to international law and compliance. And finally, we go to the third point, which is increasing exposure to litigation. So, the situation I explained makes new litigation highly likely. First, because of regulatory risk, because failure to adapt to new EU and US standards could trigger lawsuits or even class actions. And finally, because reputation-driven litigation is on the rise. A survey of this year, 2025, shows that 27% of companies reported increased exposure to ESG-related disputes on the past year. So, after I explained you the different legal implications of this issue, the legal precedents, the regulations, and also the exposure to litigation. So, with that, this all shows that Tesla, that you are a target. So, you have to act now. Now, we've seen that the cost of waiting for regulation to come instead of anticipating it is extremely high. So let's now take a brief look of the different financial implications of this issue. As Elena and Fernando, as they have previously mentioned before, sustainability is a key concern for your customers. Additionally, competition is on the rise. Therefore, if you don't lead, other companies will. On the left, you can see that a 5% drop in demand could mean 4.5 billion loss in annual revenue for your company. And on the right, you can see the cost of potential fines. So take the example of Glencore. A $1.5 billion fine represents more than 20% of your net income on the past year. With that, we can infer that ethical action isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. And now that we've seen the different dimensions of this problem, the ethical, legal, and financial, Amaya will walk you through our recommendations.
Thank you, Alex. Dear Board of Directors, now that we have deeply understood our current landscape, let's take a look at the possible alternatives we can follow in order to keep being the leader in the industry and also like to reshape all the setting we are working in. So, let's be real. Cobalt right now is essential for our batteries. However, it comes with an invisible cost that we can no longer bear. Child labor, unsafe working conditions, environmental harm. This is too much. This is why we are launching the core strategy, which relies on cobalt oversight and responsibility. On the one hand, we want to implement AI-powered satellite intelligence to monitor and respond to risks in the mine. And on the other hand, we want to launch a system of cobalt credits in order to incentivize good practices. This will enable Tesla to go beyond mitigation towards industry transformation. Let's now dive deep in the first pillar. AI-powered remote sensing for real-time mining oversight. What is this? This is about visualization and prevention. We want to implement satellites that will enable us to track what is going on in the mines and to enhance our decision-making process. How are we gonna do this? First, we will partner with geospatial intelligence firms such as Planet Labs. Then we can integrate all this data from cobalt-producing regions into an AI algorithm provided by other companies such as Satelligence. And we can cross-reference all this data with people on the ground, for example, local workers or NGOs that via SMS can report whether or not this data is verified. What is the supporting evidence? Well, for example, the previous two companies that I mentioned, Planet Labs and Satelligence, have already enabled palm oil and forest commodity buyers to detect illegal abuses in Southeast Asia or in West Africa with an 80% accuracy. But this is not everything, because it's not about imagination but about success cases. Global Forest Watch, for example, sends alerts to governments in order to prevent deforestation and adopt an early response. Into Amazon Mining Watch also is detecting illegal practices in gold mines that cross national borders. And then UNICEF's U-Report gives a voice to young people in Africa that can report human abuses via SMS super easily. And what will be the strategic impact of this pillar? First, it will enable Tesla to adopt proactive human rights violations before they are even produced. So this is not just about responding to auditing process, but about preventing the potential damage that can happen in the mines. And this has a positive impact in SDGs 8 and 12. In SDG 8, because we will prevent labor violations and respond to them in real time. And in SDG 12, because we will have traceable operations and we will have a clear sight of what is going on and where we can act effectively. Let's move forward to our second pillar, responsibility. This is about launching a system of cobalt credits. This market mechanism already exists in other industries, but our idea is to implement this with respect to cobalt. And it's about incentivizing the good players. We want to partner with certified cooperatives that can assure some standards referring to safety, environmental impact, and working conditions, and allow all those artisanal mines that already have implemented good practices to get credits for that. These independent NGOs will enable us to identify the good players, as I said. Each verified metric will convert into a tradable credit of 1 ton of cobalt, and Tesla will commit to buy every year some of these credits in order to offset its negative impact referred to the supply chain. And not just Tesla, but this can also be opened to more players in the market. The supporting evidence we bring here is Fairtrade Gold. They already give 2,000 euros per kilo of gold to the miners, converting this into a 25% increase in the wage salaries. So it's a win-win even for the miners and for the company. We have already other success cases such as Fairtrade Gold and Cocoa, the Red Plus carbon credits, and equitable origin that are converting ethical duties and ethical standards into real economic value. And this is what we are interested in, because we will invest in a greener and cleaner future. And this will have a positive impact again in SDGs 8 and 12. SDGs 8 because we will reward the workers, and in SDG 12 because our supply chain will be improved. Here we wanted to present a framework in order to track some KPIs that can enable us to see the feasibility of our solution, but we don't have much time, so we can go back in a minute. Again, with these two pillars, we want to enable Tesla to become the industry leader and accelerate the world towards sustainable energy. Now I leave you with my colleague Fernando.
So now that we've talked about recommendation, let's go through the implementation and ask ourselves, is it feasible? Well, let's start if it's legally feasible. Well, it is. It's not only legally feasible, it's designed to stay ahead of the law. It complies with EU and US regulation, it meets our circular economy standards, and it assures our market leadership. And of course, we understand that this solution, this implementation, requires certain costs. But as Alex has mentioned before, the costs of inaction are even greater. Let's start talking about the cost. Well, our first solution would have a cumulatively over 5 years cost of $6.4 million. We could go later to the backups to explain it. And our second one, cumulatively over 5 years of 13.25. That could cost around, that would be $19.65 million over 5 years. That if we round it up, it would be $20. Well, in the grand scheme of things, for a company like yours, that is insignificant. Taking into account that your profits from last year were $7.1 billion, and all this cost could be mitigated only between $12 and $30 per car sold in 1 year. In 1 year, you could greatly increase your ESG scorings, favor investments from this institutions that look for good ESG scorings. You would strengthen your positions with ethical consumers, and you would put yourself in good positions on the eyes of governments looking for give-out subsidies. So now that we talked about the implications, I'll give the hand to Elena to go through the conclusions.
Thank you again, Fernando. So we started this presentation talking about the actions we would take to guide you on this new journey. But actions only matter if they lead to outcomes. We showed you how to get a long-term competitive advantage and new opportunities, ensuring financial stability and long-term sustainability, and creating a market differentiation by being a pioneer in this such an important movement. So allow us to share an important thought that we found inspirational. Caroline Adams said, obviously we expect large companies like Tesla to use their leverage to influence the sector as a whole, and not only ask but require that their suppliers are not committing human rights abuses. Because you are not just building cars, you are shaping an industry. And when you shape an industry, you set the standard. So this is not a question about whether you can meet expectations, it's about whether you can lead by example, aligning your mission to not only design and technology, but planet and people. So this case matters, and this case matters a lot. Not because Tesla is failing, but because you have the power to do better. And the world definitely is watching. Thank you so much. We would like to open the floor now for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. I'll start with just a question to elaborate, or to ask you to elaborate on one of your points. You did a great job outlining the sort of ethical issues, child labor, inhumane working conditions, and also environmental problems. Can you just flesh out a bit more how specifically your solution, especially the AI dimension of your solution, is going to directly address those problems? What is it going to do, and what are you going to do with the data?
So, first,
or what are we going to do?
Yeah, data, that's fantastic. Data per se, we are aware that data per se is not useful. I mean, it has to be like well managed and like very responsibly managed. We really want to convert this into a real effect and a positive effect in the setting we are working in. So the thing is that information is key for decision making, and if we can have more information about what is going on in real time and in different regions that historically are not easy to access because there is a lot of things in between, and and Congo is a very difficult region right now. Like even the government is very, very difficult to go to the ground and to see what is going on. We think that these satellites and images, high resolution images of the setting, and then the AI in order to organize this data and to visualize it will enable us to make more responsible decisions, and also like to prevent many of the issues before they escalate, because we will identify them very, very early on, so that we can act or see who we need to partner to act on the ground in order to prevent more serious issues to happen. Yeah.
Thank you. Whoever else wants to ask a question, go ahead.
I actually don't have a question, but my brain, because I'm in sustainability, I know you guys are aware, I don't know if you're aware, that we can actually in America now quantify sustainability in our SEC financial filings. And it's a supplemental to the actual financial bookings, now we have this ability to, if we have what you're saying and increasing the sustainable element and value of our company, they can now report it on their financials. So I didn't know if you know that, but it's, do a little research, and it's definitely one of those 1-2 punches for a company that's looking for some quantifying sustainability.
Thank you. So my question is kind of stems from hers.
Okay.
You, in the beginning of the presentation, you outlined Tesla's ESG score compared to Philip Morris and a couple other big players that would usually think that are on the lower end of the spectrum, which didn't make us feel good as board members. And we understand that there's going to be a big financial investment. In comparison to our profit, it's small, but it's still impact to our shareholders, and it needs to break even here. So we have a 6.4 million investment, and then another 13.2, you said, over 5 years with the credits, the second part of your
Yes.
strategy. So my question for you guys is, does this project enable us to get green funding? What would be the estimated impact to our ESG score? Would that be able to attract additional investors to Tesla?
Well, absolutely. It would absolutely bring up new investors, the whole, yeah. So how would it impact our, well, we have such a low, well, you have such a low score, ESG score, due to this human rights abuses, this poisoning of the land, and these solutions would help us prevent this, because we understand that we are not directly responsible, as we have said multiple times. It's more our partners, but these solutions will help us not only offset the problems that our partners are causing, but to choose better partners with the data we're collecting. So it would have a huge positive benefit into our ESG scoring, and not be lower than tobacco companies that literally poison people.
And I think, sorry, to add on what Fernando said, I think it's worthwhile understanding that the ESG metrics are like a common thing with different standards that they are measuring. So this that we have highlighted in the presentation are points that are very important, but the company has other pain points that might not be represented in this presentation because it's not the concrete case. And of course, I will have to take a look at those. But the strategy that we are proposing is creating that vision of what your CEO is, a visionary, someone that really can set that standard. So we are seeing some critical issues that might have some easy solutions, and we think that that halo effect that I was talking about could like outweigh the money that we are spending in that strategy to really boost those scores. Even if we don't, it's not our mission to have a high score, but to create a real impact that could show our investors at the point that we are, and that would surely, as Fernando explained, get more investors to our company and have a better image out there.
And just to have a little add-on, while we were coming here to present to you this case, we saw a Tesla Cybertruck that had a bumper sticker on that said, "I bought this before Elon went crazy." I'm sure you have seen many of these. So the problems that your company are facing right now are clearly affecting your vision, your reputation towards consumers, investors, and government to get green grants. So with these solutions, we believe you can not clean this image, but restore it.
Thank you. I have a question for you. Can you tell me a little bit more about how the cobalt credits would like functionally work?
Sure. This is pretty new because we didn't find anything like this. So we tried to inspire ourselves with the carbon emission market and how it works there, and see whether we can apply this to the cobalt industry. So what this means is that we create credits, and credits can be equal to 1 ton of cobalt, for example, like the production of 1 ton of cobalt. And these credits are given to the good players, as we say, to the mines that are verified and meet all the standards imposed by independent organizations. So even if Tesla doesn't buy directly cobalt from these mines, they can buy the credits so that they can invest indirectly. They can give money to these good practices, and and they will be able to enlarge their operations, and in the future, well, not in the future, in the present, raise the wages and be rewarded for the best practices. And the idea is that this is a medium-term solution, because our dream is that Tesla will directly buy cobalt from only verified mines.
Mhm.
But right now, the requirements we have in our supply chain are too big for the supply of verified cobalt and the best practices. Yeah.
So that an example might be if I'm a family and I have my children working in the mine because I can't afford to live without their labor, but I'm doing things correctly within the mine as an individual miner, I might get increased wages because I have the mine I work for has good practices. Therefore, if I have increased wages, I don't need to send my children into the mine. Is it that kind of an idea?
That is an indirect effect, yes. And also with respect to child labor, we were surprised when we were researching on that, because child labor, is, we need to see the definition of child labor. Christina will explain this better, but it's pretty normal in many regions, and it's important.
Cultural.
So it's very idealistic to say we are gonna abolish child labor, and
Right.
this way we can try to
Make an
indirectly
impact. Yeah.
address that
Yeah.
problem. Yeah. So that is the idea.
Yes, and just to add on what Amaya said,
Yeah.
in child labor, for example, the case that you explained is perfectly depicting what we are trying to say. So, no, we are not trying to eradicate child labor, because, as Amaya said, that would be idealistic. And it's not about a kid missing school. It's about someone that is receiving a harm in their health. Just not talking about education, which is something that is crucial for everyone, but taking apart that education, we are seeing that they are having a damage in their health. And
Right.
this can cause respiratory illnesses, DNA damage, and we are playing with hard things. So we want to tackle those first, and then the other effects of maybe children not going to the mines, but the health effects that this is having on them.
Yeah. As a board member, that's difficult to hear. Yeah. So, thank you for that solution.
I like the idea, it certainly is beyond required. But the system, it sounds like we're going to be tracing it by satellite and seeing where it's coming from. I'm wondering, does cobalt have a signature so we could simply see where, kind of trace it?
That is super interesting. In
Yeah.
fact, that was our first idea. No?
Thanks for asking.
Thanks for asking.
Let's use laboratories, or let's use blockchain technology in order to trace and to see where it's really coming from. This already exists, especially in the diamond industry, because it's super important to verify it's a real diamond. However, it's not always very trustworthy, in the sense that some mines move the cobalt even before the production, before they send it. No, I don't know how to explain this. Yeah, but it's not working right now, and there have been many claims of fraud within the supply chain.
So it's not the way to go.
In fact, a former worker of Tesla launched a company, and they are doing that, but Tesla is not using their services because they are partnering with Glencore and others so there are many, if you Google it, there are many claims of fraud. So we're okay, this must not be the solution right now, perhaps in the future, if we can assure that this can work. And this is why we said, okay, images is something that no one can hack, because they're coming from the sky, and if we partner with verified actors in the industry that are already doing this, we mitigate the risk of fraud and of bad
It would
practices
appear
again.
you guys thought of that, so.
Of course.
It is very interesting.
Well,
In fact,
we're
it
in
was
contact.
our first approach, because
Yeah.
you can
It's so
actually
obvious, yeah.
see where the mineral comes
Yeah.
from.
Sure.
Each
Yeah.
mineral
Sure.
has
Yeah.
A footprint.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
honestly,
next.
we want you to be reliable, and we want you to follow your mission. So.
Yeah.
Next, the famous slide that we talked about with the, where we stand compared to tobacco and the NOS.
We can go back.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that's the best comparison, better might be fossil fuels compared to us.
Mhm.
I mean, right? And the other, how about other car companies compared to us? Other car companies that are making electric. So
Yeah.
it's more of a good comparison.
For example, even Ford has a better score than
Yes.
us. I think Ford had like
Ford had an
84 and we scored 37 in one of the latest ESG reports, and this was due to the issues with transparency. Tesla, it's true that they report and they bring reports to the table and they say how many carbon emissions they are trying to omit. However, no one knows how they truly account for those, and this is why Ford, that has more emissions, they have a better score. So even with those comparisons, we score way even worse than with the tobacco companies.
That would be interesting on
Yeah.
the slide.
Yeah,
So
thank you,
I'm
thank you
really-
for that.
I'm
That's
really
very
curious
useful
about
feedback.
other companies that use chips, like Apple, you know,
Yeah.
because the scale
Use
might be
lithium
different,
batteries.
but I've always been curious about this topic, but then all the other companies that use the child labor to get the same cobalt and the
Yeah.
chips here in America, we're always hearing like everything is coming from those mines. And it's interesting, maybe you can compare other companies and the how much, or maybe weight them, you know, how they're using it compared to Tesla or other EV car.
Okay,
Absolutely.
first, then I let you speak, guys. Sorry.
No, no, no.
I would like to highlight here that our main focus was you, Tesla,
Yeah.
because of your mission. Like Apple says phones, but they don't want to be the leader of sustainability. They don't want to make the world better by doing that. So our main focus was Tesla because here we find a real fraction. Like you can be the leaders of sustainability. Elon really, your CEO really wants to change the world. He wants to improve the reality that we live in, or at least that's what he says. So that's why we put our main focus on Tesla, because that must be aligned.
That's for sure. And we are not haters of Tesla, just the opposite. We are lovers, and that's why, like, how can we fix this? Because we didn't give up in the first week when we were like, how do we fix this? But no, it's like, no, because you really have the resources, the market position, and the vision to make this happen and make this a reality and shape the future, as Elena said.
So one quick
Yeah.
question about the surveillance, so the first part of your solution. And you suggested Planet Labs and a couple other companies who are already in the market and have been verified. You know, as a Tesla board member, I know we have a close relationship with SpaceX, and there's satellite capabilities there that may not cost as much for us as a business. Did you guys look into that at all, about possible synergies or things that we already have available to us?
Yes, I think, I mean, there are advantages such as the financial cost, but also disadvantages with respect to independency and to accountability, because if they are over the hours, who knows what is going to happen. So this is why we chose to partner with other companies that have already have the expertise and like the best practices. And this will enable us to be fast and to be very accurate and effective in the things we are talking about. And also because shaping the future is not just an individual player, it's about collaboration. So if we try to open the door for more companies to come, maybe we can spread the word and we can really make a systemic change. And this is why in the end we bet on, okay, let's do this. Maybe it's a bit more difficult, but it makes sense.
And if we have a problem with transparency, it isn't going to look very well to investors that our images, our satellite images, say that we are using good mining.
Yeah.
We
So-
shouldn't be our own judges.
Exactly. So if we already have a
Makes
problem
sense.
with transparency,
We must be humble.
we
and
must be humble and spend a little more to.
ask for help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask for just like one final tiny question? Or did you have a, no? Sorry, I thought you were putting it in there. Yeah, just one final tiny question. Can you help us see the positive sort of vision you have for these communities? Because we've, again, it's like when you were answering about the child labor, something tells me that's not good enough to just sort of like make sure that their health's not affected. And it's like, okay, well maybe in some cultures child labor is not okay. We know that it's not okay. So what is the vision you have of what these communities are supposed to look like for us? Like what is sort of like the view we should have, our goal, our aim, ethically speaking? What is it gonna look like in these places? And how is this technology, again, gonna help facilitate precisely that? So can you help us see the final vision, ethically, of what it looks like there?
That's an amazing question. It's complicated, but I think, in fact, yesterday they said in the presentation that
The opening ceremony.
yeah, they talked about small communities trying to help. I would say that matters, that makes an impact as well. I would say go small, but go there and try to fix whatever you can. And then like what Christina was saying before, it's not about eradicating child labor. It's about trying to improve their conditions, trying to improve their health. Then we are a step farther from the beginning. Then if they have a better health, they can start asking for better wages, they can start asking for better education, if we start from the top, I think we're missing a lot of stairs in the middle, and we're not gonna never build a strong ecosystem.
Yeah, and to summarize, I think that if we imagine the ground, no, how does it look like? Even if there is one child that can go to school because he no longer has to work, I think that's a win, because that's one life. So a small impact is also an impact, and we can go beyond. As we mentioned, 25% increase in wages, that's a lot. I mean, it's most in developing countries. I've been living in some countries, that is a lot. So if we can try to start by doing these little things.
Amaya, do you recall the sentence of yesterday?
Yeah, that as long as there are people silent, committed, and trust. No, it was like this, like the world will be okay or something. No, but maybe Alice. No, I have in my phone. I think I have a note.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
So even if it might sound like idealistic, because all the time that you say, okay, I perfectly understand your question. Like, how are you envisioning all this community? And of course, we are being realistic, and we are not envisioning a community where no child works, everything's fine, the mines are perfect, you're right. But overseeing the conditions of the mines already assures kind of the decent labor structure that that economy might need. So even if the whole economic structure might need of those children working, the decent labor is assured. So a lot of things come after that might be indirect effects.
And we have seen in many other countries like Brazil government programs like Bolsa Familia, that very little not money to families, to poor families, changes a lot how kids behave if they are able to go to get education. And you said about grand plan, we are focused one at a time, but of course if you ask us really long term, well, we would love that no child has to work in the mines and get jeopardized, and instead can go and get education. And we have seen how this little gifts of money, or how this little increases in wages, can affect positively in these communities.
Thank you. Yeah.
What I'm hearing you talk about is called environmental justice here in America. I'm sure all over the world. And environmental justice is really looking at the environmental impact and how that affects the poor communities around that particular area. And the work that I do, we actually have these incentives that you're talking about. And it would be amazing if you were able to kind of look at it and again quantify the contribution of the sustainable elements and the ESG increase rating and how that quantifies and translates into environmental justice. And I know that's probably, it takes a lot of research, but that would be a great metric for you to be able to see the delta and from what we were to what we could be. Just some feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, that was amazing.
You were looking for the quote.
So it was, never doubt that at every point in history there is a small group of thoughtful, committed people willing to make a difference, and it is the only thing that ever has.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Very good. Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
listening.
Yeah, so we're like
Thank you for
out
the
of
feedback.
character now. So just we can give you some general feedback on it. Anyone can start if you want, or I can start if you want.
Go ahead.
I'll start. This was a really great presentation. I think you came with wonderful energy. You were engaging. It was really easy to listen to everything that you were saying. And as someone thinking about this ethically, I really appreciated that you really set a severe context. We felt guilty. It's like, this is not what should be happening. I think my only regret, and I know this is maybe about time, is that I think weaving the ethics back into the strategy, the solution that you had would have really drove it home, because we saw a lot of like the problem side. And I know, again, this is time, but seeing more of that clearly in the presentation and the conclusion, maybe that'll be helpful for tomorrow to like map it out in terms of the ethics. Like, here's the problems, here's all the good things that are going to come from this very clearly, so that we know right away. The slides were so clean, really well done. I think in some cases, maybe a little too much text, where it was sort of like, not sure if I should be reading or paying attention to who is speaking, but yeah, the presence was fantastic. So this was a really, you should feel very proud about the presentation you gave.
Thank
It was
you.
fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other feedback from other judges?
I agree with everything you said. It was a great presentation. I really appreciated you explaining, like Jeffrey says, you know, tell him again and tell him what you told him. You guys did a lot of that, which was great. I was able to follow along. It's a complex issue with a lot of different areas where you could diverge, and you kept me on a great path. I knew where you were going with the slides and the information, and so that allows me the ability, as an outside judge who doesn't know a lot about Tesla's background, it allows me the ability to take in your information and understand it, which is, you know, key in a situation like this. And just visually, the way you put it together, the little Tesla icon that went, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, really well done. And your energy, great. Very, you know, through the questions, we could tell how well informed you were about the topic. We could kind of go off in different directions, and you guys had great answers. So just overall, A++.
Thank you.
Wonderful speaking abilities.
Yeah.
Guys are getting right and presenting.
Thank you.
The passion came through tremendously.
Yeah.
I mean, more than anybody else I've seen. I always look for a pain point as the board. And I would expect this would cost a lot of money, and this is gonna cost like nothing. But it seemed like the pain point, someone had a great question, why aren't we using SpaceX? And your answer was great, but bad, because the credibility is a problem. So maybe a solution could be, even though we're a really big car company, we're only doing 50% of the electric cars, so there's a whole bunch of other electric cars being made, and there's many other industries. So how about some kind of a coalition for everyone that's using cobalt? Because then you could use SpaceX and it wouldn't look proprietary. Maybe just, if the question comes up, that's your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a super quick, great job. What I look for is to be able to follow a presentation. And there's you know 3 big buckets that we're looking at as the board for answers. And the fact that you addressed that immediately made me be able to sit back and relax and like, okay, they're gonna guide me through this. So visually, excellent. Color scheme, obviously, great. Love the top and the tracker. So the little touches. There were some slides where there was a lot of text, and I was trying to like visually see what was the most important point, and follow what you're saying at the same time. So that was slightly struggle, but overall great. I would say, as far as feedback, the biggest thing would be cost, right? Financial impact. How is it going to increase shareholder value? Of course, we're worried about like the litigious portion, but ultimately, how much is it going to cost? How can we become more profitable? Mm-hmm. So the whole green funding, and she touched on it too, is what's going to impact the score and really what percentage. And you also touched on it, the ESG, right? Environmental, social governance. This is, where is this point or this pain point? How is that connected to each one of them? And maybe a range of the impact, right? High, low, and then although the investment's small, you know, what are we using to finance this? Like, do we have cash available? Just, you know, quick, you know, it doesn't have to be a deep dive, but just an answer. Yeah. But otherwise, great job.
Thank you.
What's in the backup?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I was like, what's in the backup?
There's a cost.
Okay, there we go. These are the detailed
There's
numbers.
How do we do it?
timeline,
Okay.
timeline for both. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be a great metric. I'm repeating myself. If you guys got the number of how much it's going to cost, and then if you get the ESG quantification, and you see, I'm sure it's way higher than that 19 million. I bet you it's probably way higher than that. And then it'll be like ding 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 in our heads, like, oh, it is worth it because you can quantify ESG. So even if it's just 2 of them, to have that number, or just to see the number and to see if it's even worth discussing to the board is I'm just curious. So just
I do have a question because I am super interested in impact investing. But then you have like several frameworks with several different organizations and different ways of measuring it. Is there a framework you really like so that we can take a look?
I think there are in the ESG UN kind of framework.
Yeah.
There are the top 3 or 4 that are there that measure the metric, and I think they measure them kind of equally. So just pick any of them and you can just reference them, and they have all the formulas and everything, how to quantify, and it's based upon exactly what you're talking about, the credits, and changing it to where you have a higher ESG kind of implementation in your company, and then quantify how much money that would be, how much more value of your company on those SEC filings you would be able. I know that's like probably going fast on you're supposed to be walking but you're on the Autobahn, but just philosophically it'd be amazing to find that out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Thank you.